I know you guys received our statement a few minutes ago. So, had a positive test this morning. So, we closed the building and just following all the protocols with the league. And we'll have an update for you as contact tracing finishes up. But as you know, what we're trying to do is just make sure we follow all the rules and keep everybody safe. That's our goal. As it relates to yesterday on the injury front, really came out of that in pretty well. So I don't really have any updates on you in that department. And then just on the game, like we talked about yesterday after watching the tape, I think, we played the game that was called for, called the game that was called for based on the conditions, and was proud of the team to battle there and come out of there with a W. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Coach. Our first question will go to Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, I know this is kind of a redundant question, but just how disconcerting is it to have to continually deal with this kind of thing? And also, can you mention again how your team came through it last week when you had to go through the upheaval of this?
Yeah, Mary Kay, we've talked about it going all the way back till, April. That's the world we live in right now, and we're ready to do whatever is necessary to keep everybody safe. First and foremost, keep our coaches, players, staff safe, and that's really where our mentality is. And then while doing that, we still have to prepare and get ready to play.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Next up is Scott Petrick.
Hey, Coach, you cut out for a second on mine, so if you answered this, sorry, but did the person who tested positive play yesterday?
I'm not going to get into that right now, Scott. I'll kind of let this play out, and we'll update you as more information comes in.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Fred Greetham, your line is open.
More of a football question, Coach. The defense has been kind of maligned, giving up about 30 points a game. The last two, you had win conditions, but they only gave up 16, then 7 yesterday. Can you just talk about the big improvement coming out of the bye on that side of the ball?
Yeah, really pleased with the guys flying around yesterday. Had a couple opportunities to get their quarterback on the ground, and he made a great play. So we credit him. We tip our cap to him. But the guys were playing fast, understood the game plan, was not perfect, and that's what the coaches are meeting with the players now to clean some things up. But I did think that there was a great level of effort out there, and holding those guys to 7 points is a big deal.
Thank you, Fred. Jeff Shadell, we'll go to you.
Hey, Kevin, on that 3rd and 3 before Nick Chubb's long run, normally that might have been a passing down. But so talk about the confidence you have in that running game to call a run on 3rd and 3.
Yeah, I think there were moments in that game, Jeff, where running the ball was really, almost the only thing you could do. And I think the people that were in that stadium and standing on the sideline kind of understood that. And then there were times where it was 3rd and longer, and we tried to make a play. But I think both teams understood that game was not for the forward pass at times. So on Nick's big run, it was 3rd down. Felt confident in getting the first down, and also felt confident in using the clock in that moment.
Thank you, Jeff. Tony Grossi, you're up next.
Okay, sorry. Just 2 random questions about the game. Were you satisfied with the management of the clock and timeouts at the end of the first half?
Yeah, I guess I was satisfied with it, Tony. My idea there was they were still running the ball, so I looked at it as an opportunity to strip the ball, and if you recover it, you're kicking a field goal. So that was the idea behind calling those timeouts.
Well, actually, when you had the ball, you saved your timeouts till the end of the first half. And then there was one period where you blew 10 seconds before the timeout.
Yeah. Yep. The idea there, Tony, was we had, more than 30 seconds. So we felt like we had enough time, but if we did give it back, we wanted, take a few seconds off there where it didn't hurt us and potentially hurt them when they got the ball back.
Okay. The other question I had was the use of the pistol showed up. I think it's the first time for you this year. Will we see more of that? And what is the reasoning? Does that give the quarterback a better side of the field?
Yeah, I think we called it twice yesterday. It's something where we kind of look at it as it's in some ways an under center with the running back in the dot, and in other ways it's shotgun with the quarterback, 4.5, 5 yards deep from the center. So there's a package of plays that you can run out of it, and we'll kind of grow that and see if that becomes part of the game plan this week.
And did you ever do that in Minnesota last year?
We did a couple times.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Nate Ulrich, you have our next question.
Hey, Kevin, I was wondering what you thought of Rashard Higgins' day and specifically the 3rd and 18 hookup between Mayfield and Higgins and just what you saw in that play.
Yeah, that was outstanding. Rashard has, we all know, has a knack for making those plays. Drew a couple DPIs, which again were big plays in that game. But to be able to toe tap there, make the play on a 3rd and 18, that we really need those. You're not going to make many of those. That's a tough percentage to make on 3rd and 18. When you do get that and extend the drive, it usually is good news for the offense.
Do you think that's just another example of Baker's trust in him, that play?
Yeah. I mean, I do think, Nate, that Baker has great trust in all the guys out there. I truly believe that. And Hollywood is one of those guys, and he's got a knack for making plays.
Mary Kay Cabot, back to you.
Yeah, Coach, yesterday you were talking about, just, the smart heads up plays like the one that Nick made. Conversely, there were a couple of plays that, could be construed as not so smart. And I'm talking about Jarvis's taunting and Mac's penalty. What's your take on those, and what's kind of the message when, games are so tight like that and you have guys that are making those kind of mistakes?
Yeah, I think we have to be better there. We harp a lot on pre-snap penalties, and then really those personal foul penalties, the 15-yarders that happen a lot of times after the play. We can't have them, and both those guys know that. It's undisciplined that I don't expect from those two players in particular. I know they would love to take those plays back. With Max, there's a physicality that I want these guys to play with, but you got to play within the rules.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Scott Petrick has our next question.
Kevin, you're talking about how tough it was to pass yesterday. So as a play caller, how do you decide when it's okay to do it, when it's not? Do you tell Baker, hey, we're going to throw it, but you got to be extra careful here? Yeah,
it was, there were moments there where it was just whipping, and there's no way you could complete a ball. I mean, there were times in warmups that you couldn't throw it 10 yards. It was getting knocked down. So I think it was a constant communication with myself and the offensive staff, kind of, all right, where are we? Has it died down enough to call this play? And then a couple of times we just tried to get Baker on the perimeter and maybe get him an easy completion or run it with him out there on the perimeter. So that was what the game called for. We didn't know that on Monday and Tuesday when you put a game plan together. But when you see the weather report, when you get there to that stadium, you kind of have to take all that into account and understand what is it going to take to go win that game.
Does that make it harder then to evaluate Baker, or what do you take away from his game yesterday, given those conditions?
No, I think you evaluate the quarterback on every play, getting in and out of the right plays. Obviously, as you're handing off, you're grading him, but of course there were less opportunities to throw it. But in those opportunities, you definitely grade him just the same.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. We'll go to Darryl Ryder.
Hey, Kevin, I want to ask about the resiliency of your team. The snowball effect that we had just become so accustomed to here in Cleveland, whether it's a big play, a score, a bad loss. Your team has responded every year in a positive fashion. And I'm just, from your standpoint, I guess, why is that? How is that? Is it just as simple as your message to the team? Just, why does your team respond so positively when something negative happens to it?
Yeah, Darryl, we talk about it, but I would just tell you it's the type of guys we have. It's the locker room. Those guys have been unfazed with everything that's thrown at them. And we anticipate there's going to be something every week, something sometimes every day. And there's going to be something in every game that's not going to go your way. So I give credit to how the guys have responded in those instances.
You got 7 games left on the schedule. You and 5 other teams are 6-3 here in the AFC, fighting for a couple precious playoff spots. Just how exciting is it for you as a first-year head coach to be here in mid-November, knowing that, you know, through December, you're going to be playing meaningful football every week and trying to extend your season?
Yeah, Daryl, I think you probably know how I'm going to answer this. We don't get wrapped up in that. I know it's fun for the fans and I get all that, but for us, we kind of try and focus on the task at hand. So today was about learning from yesterday, and you try and learn from after a win as much as you learn for after a loss, and then get ready to play Philly. And for our fans, we like having meaningful football games, but for us, the thing that matters most for us is the game that week.
Thank you, Daryl. Back to Tony Grossi.
Sorry. Kevin, it looked like Ronnie Harrison was extremely active. He blitzed a lot. Yeah, I think he had a tackle for loss, a pressure, a pass defense. The level of trust you and Woods now have in him, is it like he's been here forever now? Has he caught up to everything?
Yeah, Tony, I'd say to his credit, to Jeff Howard, Joe Woods, Brandon Lynch, all those guys have brought him up to speed. There was a benefit of playing in a similar system down there in Jacksonville, but still, I thought that it was smart with how our defensive staff brought him along. And now you mentioned him. He was all over the field yesterday. He's playing at a high level. He's another player that's all about the ball. And I know we didn't get one yesterday, but he's very active around the ball, physical tackler. You mentioned the blitzing. So, yeah, I would agree with you in that he was active yesterday.
And how important is it to get somebody other than Garrett and Ward to be consistently making plays on that side of the ball? It seems like he's been for 3 games now.
Yeah, I think, I'd put Ronnie in a category of making plays and a guy that we can count on, and we're going to continue to count on. But I think we're getting a lot of guys are contributing. A lot of guys are playing. In certain games, some guys will play more based on how the game is going, and I think the guys certainly understand that there's a role to be played. But I do like the role that Ronnie's playing.
Thank you.
Nate Orrick, will go to you.
Hey, Kevin, kind of related. What's going on at the other safety spot? Are you trying to see if Redwine can take on more there and take some off Sendejo's plate?
Yeah, I think it's just we're working through different combinations and getting guys snaps, and we'll continue to do that really at a bunch of different positions. And
is Joseph, still going to be a factor for you guys, or with him playing no defensive snaps? What was the reason for that, and what's going on with him? Yeah, again, I'd kind of say it's the combination that we're looking for throughout different games, and we're going to count on Carl. I would tell you he played really well on some snaps and special teams yesterday, but we're excited about what all those guys in the back end can bring to the different games this week.
Thank you, Nate. Jake Trotter, you're up.
Yeah, Kevin, with the positive test, when it happened, last week, it was at the end of the week. So now that it's at the beginning of the week, how does that affect your plans? Not only today, but just kind of going forward, looking ahead.
Yeah, first time in this scenario for us, Jake. So we'll see. Got to get more information from Joe and the medical staff, and then we'll plan accordingly. But for us, like you mentioned, that we haven't had one here at this moment, so we'll kind of see how it shakes out.
Thank you, Jake. Mary Kay Cabot, you have our next one.
This follows up a little bit on Scott's question about trying to evaluate Baker on your last drive of the first half, which of course you guys like to do the score at the end and then come back and score again, and
the double dip.
The double dip. But I had written down, that Donovan Peoples-Jones made a nice catch there that was kind of thrown behind him. Then Kareem couldn't get one that was thrown behind him. And then it looked like it appeared to be an overthrow to Jarvis there. So my question is this a function of the wind just taking the ball and doing whatever it wanted with it? Or is that a series there where Baker would like to have some of those back?
Well, yes, it was a function of the win, but I can promise you Baker would want those throws back and complete them. So he's hard on himself. We're hard on him, but I'm also realistic in understanding the conditions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. PJ Ziegler, you have our next question.
Hey, Kevin, I got two questions for you. One, I know you don't put much stock in the weather forecast till later in the week, but have you looked at Sunday's forecast?
I have looked, but I'll wait till later in the week to let it affect us.
Also, do you, when you do have a situation where you have weather that plays a factor, and obviously we saw the last 2 weeks, do you kind of go in with two game plans? One, if the weather holds up, and then one, if it does what you're expecting it to do, and maybe you flip the script?
Yeah, a little bit, PJ. I think what happens is you put a plan together on Monday and Tuesday, your base game plan, if you will, and you want to make sure that you have enough run and enough pass. If it turns into a game where you need to pass a lot, you're likely going to be in a 2-minute mode where you're in your 2-minute menu, if you will. If you get into a game where you have to run it a lot, like we did yesterday, you're just going to lean on the runs that you had up already in the base game plan. And I think you saw later in the second half, we got into bigger groupings, got into some 13, some 22 there as it became that game. So I think you really have enough in your base game plan to pivot in either direction.
And my second question, how much does the dynamics of this offense change when you have a guy like Nick Chubb in the backfield? I mean, it looked like you didn't score any touchdowns when he wasn't in there. And obviously Wyatt Teller was injured as well, but all of a sudden he comes back and you guys get a rushing touchdown.
Yeah. And obviously you guys know Nick's a really good player, to sort of have him and Kareem back there as a 1-2 punch, or 1 and 1A, whatever you want to call it, I think is pretty unique. And then you mentioned Wyatt. I mean, he's been a productive physical player for us. So it was good to see him back out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, PJ. Marla Ridenour, your line's open.
Yeah, Coach, just a quick one about the national anthem. What will you remember about that? Batonio said he thought it was a Category 1 hurricane.
It was crazy. Yeah, I'll remember getting pelted by sideways hail is what I'll remember.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. We'll take two more, Scott Petrick and Nate Ulrich. Scott, go ahead.
Thanks. Hey, Kevin, given the field position that you started that final drive with, just how impressive and important was it for Kareem in the run game to pick up those first downs with the time on the clock like that?
Yeah, that was a big deal. That game was very, very much in the balance there. And for the guys to respond, to chew the clock up, to gain a couple first downs with your back up against the wall, you're in the shadow of your goalpost right there, I thought was key to the victory, obviously.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Final question goes to you, Nate Ulrich.
I mean, you just mentioned Wyatt Teller. So what did you see from him in his first game back when you get to review it all?
Yeah, he did a nice job. It wasn't perfect, as you can imagine, coming back to your first game. A couple things I think kept him off balance, but you did see the physicality. He was straining. He gave up a sack there, which again, is just technique and continue to work. So I think he just was knocking some rust off.
Do you think, though, in the running game that you felt his presence immediately? I mean, obviously we all see Nick Chubb with the ball. It's easier to focus on him, but was Teller part of that success?
Yeah, he was. And I don't like singling offensive linemen out because they get in trouble when I do, but Jack Conklin's another guy that was really good yesterday. I might as well mention them all. Joel Batonio battling through the injury, JC, playing very smart ball, playing physical. I thought Jed was good yesterday. He got a bunch of guys on the ground and was straining. So I'd say all those guys really took the challenge of that game, and knowing that we were going to run it, they knew we were going to run it. And I think those guys rose to the occasion.